Hello there everybody, I'm Spot92 and welcome back to a rousing episode of Questioning My Sanity. Last episode, we had a very, well, now that I've actually had time to kind of think about it and sleep on it here, I don't know what's real. That entire scene with Remy, it didn't have that filter effect that would usually happen whenever it came to us using the delusion system. So I'm gonna go potentially into the thought process that maybe this stuff that's happening right now is real. However, we did 2 positive delusion shifts, but it feels like the delusion hasn't ended yet. So right now, as I say, I do not know what's real. I'm going with the aspect that maybe this is real. Like maybe Takumi actually somehow positively affected the world through his delusions. He hasn't gotten a D sword yet, but maybe his delusions have reached that fever pitch where it is starting to affect reality a bit more consistently, rather than it just being a freaking whatever the hell he tends to think of. And on top of that, we see a scene where Senna destroys something. A sort of, what looks like it was emitting a sound that seemingly was hypnotizing a group of people. For what purpose were those people being mind controlled, though? Were they there to be killed? I don't know. Let's move in and find out. As fall moved forward, it had gradually been getting colder outside. The fact that I had been able to get out in a short-sleeved shirt only a few days ago felt unreal. The color of the sky was also somewhat dull. Its previously bright tint seemed to be fading. If you went to a park, you'd be able to see the vibrant autumn leaves sprouting from the trees. Maybe they were sucking the color from the sky. As I looked up toward that sky, I jammed my toothbrush into my mouth. The nice thing of... Oh, okay, so we're back with Takumi. Okay, makes sense. The nice thing about my base was that I had no eyes on me. I could do anything I wanted on the roof without fear of other people's scrutiny. It was also fairly spacious, giving it a nice open feel. My sink was located outside of my container, which allowed me to brush my teeth outside when the weather was nice. It was pretty inconvenient when it rained, though. As I rubbed my sleepy eyes, I moved my toothbrush around my mouth and thought back to what had happened the day prior. Even after everything, Remy had stayed in my room until late at night. She'd even held my hand until I finally calmed down, which had taken at least an hour. Although, I should clarify that nothing had actually happened between us before she'd gone home. 2 people of the opposite sex, and the same age no less, had been left all alone in a cramped room for hours on end, yet they'd never broached any particularly lewd topics. Coming from you, that's surprising. Then again, you were in a very vulnerable state, and her being there kind of helped bring you back, at least a little bit. If I had the skills to carry out conversations like that, I would have gained normie status a long time ago. Jesus Christ, why was I like this? The part of me that wanted this bullshit sexual gratification made me want to puke. Self-loathing. You actually recognize it as negative. I mean, you've done that multiple times, but again, just... you don't like that part of yourself, apparently. Remy was genuinely trying to help me, and it was as a friend. Nothing more. She'd already done a lot for me just by saying, I'll stay by your side. That alone had made me feel leagues better. Having just that pillar of support made a tremendous difference. Despite the gut-wrenching murder of Dr. Takashina in the numbskull case, I'd found myself feeling pretty stable after the night had passed. Maybe it was because my mind was preoccupied by the patent and the trial records I'd looked up yesterday. The power to project delusions onto reality. Did such a thing really exist? Was I being targeted by Shogun because I had the power to do so? If I did have that power, a childhood memory resurfaced. Oh, that incident. Yeah, we got to see that, which kind of made me think that you had some sort of like precognitive ability. Although, now I think about it, if you go down this line of thinking, you're gonna start blaming yourself for the accident, and it's not gonna positive. It's gonna be negatively affecting you. It was the day I hadn't been able to go on a field trip. The day where I'd been the only one not involved in a certain accident. The bus had crashed and several of my classmates were injured. And Mr. Saito, my teacher, died. I remembered images of those things appearing vividly in my mind back then. I'd seen them, clear as day. Had it really been just foreknowledge? What if those images hadn't just been foreknowledge? What if they'd been a delusion of mine? What if I'd projected that delusion onto reality? My body threatened to start trembling, so I wrapped my arms around myself in an attempt to counter it. That's what I was afraid of. You're gonna start blaming yourself if you start going along this line of thinking. A murderer. Oh. Rimi was standing there. Despite how early in the morning it was, she was just as cheerful and energetic as ever. The moment I saw her smile, the trembling I'd been unable to fight suddenly ceased. That was odd. I used to get extremely uncomfortable whenever 3D girls were around me, but for some reason, I felt at ease now that Rimi was here. Well, she was there in your hour of need. That act kind of helped probably broke some sort of like barrier that was holding you back, at least in a sense. She was there keeping you sane. She helped you. And whether you consciously are aware of it, she has basically entered your bubble. Like a sort of, and not really invading personal space sort of deal, but she's entered that field where, like, you like their presence. Yeah, probably. Oh, I understand now. According to the minimum attendance chart, I had to go to school today. I'd probably told Rimi that yesterday. Sorry. Yeah, it had to be that. Because of Shogun, I'd been too afraid to go out on my own, and that was when Rimi told me, I'll stay by your side. She was keeping that promise. Sorry, probably. Just be a little bit extra patient with him, Rimi. He's not used to this. Good. Rimi winked mischievously at me. What eroge was this? I couldn't believe a girl from my class had come to pick me up. It was a scenario I would have never expected to ever happen in real life. If she wanted to make it genuinely top tier, she should have barged into my room and woken me up. That would have insta-killed me. While I cooked up idiotic delusions like that, Rimi looked up at the sky. That distant look of hers again. Sometimes that happens. Well, the sun's light is composed of 7 colors, the well-known colors of the rainbow. For those 7 colors to reach the human eye, they first have to pass through the Earth's atmosphere. And when that happens, a phenomenon called scattering occurs. To put it simply, when light collides with the particles in the atmosphere, it gets refracted in several random directions. Welcome to our special science lesson, starring Takumi Nishijo. Since it gets refracted into random directions, it results in light traveling around a lot, and that's what makes it easily observable for people. The colors that scatter the most are purple and blue. Oh, thank God, one of my favorite colors. That's why the sky is blue. I was so smart, I impressed even myself sometimes. However, while my answer was based in scientific fact, Rimi's came from emotions and romanticism.
寒くてみんなが下を向いちゃうから青を望む人の数が減っちゃうの
That's an interesting way of looking at it. Like, putting science aside, I kind of like fewer people wish to see that blue. I felt like Rimi had already said something like that before, but when exactly?
だから寒くても上を向いて歩こう
Keep a positive attitude in the face of gloominess. I can respect that. I quickly changed clothes, then left the Kurenai conference hall building with Rimi. Oh, that was her humming there, okay. Going to school together. For all intents and purposes, this was some normie shit. Shogun and Yua terrified me so much I honestly wanted them to die. And I really meant that. Fucking KYS, both of you! And yet, thanks to them, I've been able to test out normiedom. Maybe I owed them more than I realized. I tended to force myself to change how I felt about them, but Dr. Takashina's face resurfaced in my mind and my good mood was instantly blown away. My doctor had been killed. And it could very well have been because of me. Shogun had killed a doctor I knew well, all to set an example, or provoke me. I was hit with a wave of pure anxiety and dread. I began to gradually fall behind Rimi. Looking at her diagonally now, I glanced at the back of her head. What kind of expression could she be making? She was humming. She was humming the song from the Phantasm CD I'd lent her the day prior. Her footsteps were light and bouncy. We weren't even talking, so why was she so happy? Seeing her like that, it helped alleviate my anxiety, if only a little bit. But it was probably time to be honest with myself. Why was Rimi being so nice to me? Maybe the reason lay within the memories I had with her, and memories that were lost to me. When we arrived at school, I let Rimi go off on her own and made a break for the restroom. That was one of my secretly OP tactics. I felt bad since Rimi had gone out of her way to pick me up, but coming to school with a girl would make me stand out. Especially if the DQNs in my class noticed. Who knew what terrible fate would be in store for me then? That was why I'd taken a short break in the restroom. It would buy me enough time to make them think I'd come alone. And yet my mission had ended in failure. Misumi-kun? I'm assuming it's Misumi. Putting a nonchalant look on my face, I left the restroom and headed toward the classroom at the end of the hallway, keeping my head down all the way. Oh! Ayase! As I made my way there, I spotted Ayase walking toward me. The moment our eyes met, Ayase's lips twisted into a thin smile. Hi. Generic anime grunt noises. Ayase was a celebrity. I knew I'd be better off not talking to her when we were at school, as it would only make me stand out. Unfortunately, Ayase wasn't on the same page that I was, which she showed by choosing to stop directly in front of me. I had no choice but to follow suit.
匠、あれから警察はどう？
Good? I nearly screamed, but I managed to cover my mouth with my hand. Why would you bring that up in public? I looked around in a panic. The situation was already really bad. Unsurprisingly, Ayase was the center of attention. It was rare for her to come to school at all, and she was Phantasm's vocalist, and she was a beautiful androgynous woman. That last thing was pretty much a universal opinion, meaning both guys and girls alike were immensely interested in Ayase. And they all knew there was no way she'd be talking like to an otaku freak like me under normal circumstances. The gazes surrounding me were painful. I wanted to run away.
剣を探して。
That's what we're kind of working on.
君はそうしなくちゃいけないのよ。
I'm aware, but I have not had any luck finding the goddamn sword. Trust me, I'm looking. She always said the same thing every time we met. Ayase may have been on my side, but I was tired of her repeating the same bullshit over and over again like a broken record. I want to get it as much as you want me to. I just don't know how.
ヒントが欲しい。君はどうやってあれを手に入れた？
She's probably not gonna tell you.
いつの間にかそこにあった。
Yeah, cryptic. It was there before I knew it. That doesn't tell me anything! And there it was! Was she ever going to stop dodging the goddamn question?
気づかなかったわ、最初は。でも、ちょっとだけ見方を変えたら、わかった。
You didn't see it at first, but when you ever so slightly altered your perspective. Huh.
もしかしたら、匠にももう見えているのかも。
It's already visible?
見ていないだけで。
And she'd lost me. Conversing with Ayase always wore me out. Spare me the Zen cones, please. What? Zen koans?
剣はちゃんと探してるよ。僕だって絶対手に入れたいから。
Unable to bear the piercing gazes for even a second longer, I gave Ayase a short sigh of exasperation, and then slipped past her into the classroom. After all that, I became even more depressed. Some of the guys, Misumi-kun included, were staring at me in astonishment. Oh, shit, they'd seen me talking to Ayase. I was in deep shit now. Who knew what they were gonna say to me? I could deal with it if they just made fun of me a bit, but I was worried that they'd go even one step further and pick an actual fight with me. Just because I dared to talk to Ayase. I really didn't need a demo of high school gang activity. I dropped my gaze and made my way to my seat, trying to bring the least possible amount of attention to me. I beg you, leave me alone.
Oi, oi, oi!
What do you want, Misumi? My prayers were left unanswered.
タク、てめえいつの間に？今、岸本と話してたよな。
So she came up to me, dumbass. I had to remain silent. I couldn't allow myself to look up.
岸本が誰かとまともに会話してるとこ、初めて見たぜ。一体どんな手使ったんだよ。
What the hell? What kind of question is that? What the hell did you do to... What? I beg of you, don't yell so loud. It's echoing throughout the entire classroom. Please just leave me alone. I have no intention of messing around with Ayase. Even if I wanted to, I'm not worthy of her anyway. So please, stop making such a big deal out of this.
なあタク、教えろって。
大地
And Remy to the rescue! Right then, Remy interrupted him.
落ち着け。タクが困ってるでしょ。
悪い悪い。
Yeah, there you go. Misumi-kun lowered his voice and clapped me lightly on the back. With my head still hanging low, I let out a small sigh. Remy had come to save me yet again.
で、実際のところどうやったんだ?
Really throw him off. We ran away from the police. I didn't know what I'd expected. This is the dude who only thought with the wrong head, after all. Yeah.
もう大地ってほんと節操ないよね。
Do you know what self-control is? Nah, he sold that alongside his frontal lobe.
そのうち彼女さんに刺されるんじゃない？
I mean...
心配すんなって。俺こう見えても各種ケアは欠かさねえから。
I doubt it. I sincerely doubt it. If you're still chasing other women's skirts while you're in a quote-unquote... well, a relationship where you give her all the TLC she deserves... yeah, I do not trust you.
何それ？
なあタク、教えろよ。岸本とはどんな感じなんだ?
We're not dating, god damn it! Asking me once again, Misumi-kun started rubbing my shoulders. While I was reluctant about it, I timidly looked up. About half the guys in the classroom were taking quick glances at me and whispering to each other. Oh shit, they were still watching me. Don't look at me. Chills ran over the nape of my neck. If you were caught in a DQN's line of sight, you were finished. They'd never let you hear the end of it. All that awaited you was pure, unending hell. What should I do? Run away? Should I just skip classes and go home? I couldn't do that alone. The mere thought of running into either Shogun or Yua left my legs paralyzed. Should I ask Remy to go back home with me? She'd said before that she'd kept her promises, which meant she'd stay by my side at all times. So, if she really had been telling the truth before, surely she'd skip class with me. Regardless, I need to get out of the classroom as soon as possible. Suddenly, a really loud sound came from the entrance. Everyone immediately turned their gazes toward it, trying to figure out what was going on. Oh shit. It's the new girl. It was the transfer student. Rubbing her forehead with tears in her eyes, she bowed silently to everyone around her again and again. The entire classroom had fallen silent. What the hell?
今の見たか?
見た。一人で勝手に扉に激突してたね。
Oh shit, is she okay?
やっぱ梢ちゃんは可愛いな。
How about instead of gushing about her looks, you go check on her and see if she's... Oh, actually, wait, I don't trust Misumi-kun. Remy, could you go check on her, please?
No.
Oh, that's right, her name was Kozue. If the clumsy girl archetype actually existed IRL, she certainly fit the bill.
また泣いた。
Ah, crud.
大丈夫かな？すごい音してたけど。
With worry in her voice, Remy ran up to the transfer student before anyone else could. Okay, good on you. She just couldn't help herself from getting involved. What a meddler. But I guess she was just that kind.
うお、リミに先越された。待て待て、梢ちゃんを解放するのは俺だ。
Shut up, Battler! Making his intentions clear, aka telling Rimi to back off, Misumi-kun ran over to the transfer student, albeit a bit late. The transfer student running into the door ended up being a blessing in disguise. The guys that had been staring at me up until then had now shifted their attention toward her. Good job, transfer student. I'd have to thank her later. But right then, I happened to overhear what a group of girls near my desk were saying.
うざ。何あれ。狙ってやってんじゃん。
Their whispers were faint, but I knew exactly what they said. Nope. School bell.
視界にはデッドスポットと呼ばれる通常は使用されることのないいくつかの神経チャネルが存在することをご存知ですか？
Oh, freaking Nozomi. These annoying suits. Alright, what kind of cryptic bullshit are you gonna spread today?
それが第二世代と何か関係があるのかね？
そういうことになります。
He mentioned dead spots, so I'm kind of wondering if that has anything to do with the magnetic spots that Bon was showing us earlier.
簡単な実験をしてみましょう。
Oh, a demonstration?
これをご覧ください。
What the hell? A black dot and a circle?
子供騙しを聞いている暇はないぞ。
重要なことですよ。
Okay, what are you getting at?
この図には左側にドット、右側にリングがあります。
Okay.
では、左目を手で覆って見えないようにしてください。
Cover my left eye? Okay, everything's a bit blurry.
そのまま右目だけで図の左側にあるドットを見つめてください。
Okay, I'm doing that now.
いかがですか？ドットを見つめる目の端の方にリングも存在しますか？
Yes, at the edge of my vision I can still see the ring.
いくらドットだけを見つめていても、隣にあるリングがついでに見えているのは当然だと思うがな。
Like, just barely.
では先生、ドットだけを見つめたままモニターに顔を近づけていってみてください。隣のリングはどうなりますか？
Okay, so face closer to the monitor while still looking at the ring. Okay, this is very uncomfortable. Okay, I can't do that. Ugh. Okay, I can't do that experiment. That was a little bit uncomfortable. Oh god, my eyes hurt. Oh.
ほう、これは興味深いね。
右側のリングが消えた。そうですね。これは視界が狭まったからではありません。その証拠に、さらにモニターに近づくことで、リングはまた視界に現れます。
Huh?
これは一体どんなトリックだ？
I've actually got a sketchbook. Maybe I should try this. I should probably try this experiment later.
いいえ、トリックの類ではありません。普段は使用されていないですが、人間が元から持っている目の機能の一つですよ。これはデッドスポットと呼ばれ、
Oh, that's what it's called, a dead spot. Okay.
ノアによって人間の視界の中に無から有を作り出す際に使用するチャネルなのです。
Okay, now you lost me. What about Noah? Noah shall produce something from nothing in the eyes of the population. What? No, go back. I'm confused. Why did you... Ugh. After classes finished, I found myself standing still at the school entrance. Twilight was beginning to encroach upon the sky, and a few crows were flying across it, flapping their wings without so much as a caw. I was waiting for Rimi. It was her turn to clean the classroom, so she was taking longer than usual. We hadn't promised to go home together today, but I was sure we would. So, waiting for that to happen, I'd been standing there for over 15 minutes. I had no idea how the day would go this morning, but I'd managed to make it through it with fairly little trouble. Misumi-kun was so desperate to talk with the transfer student that he dropped the subject about me and Ayase entirely. I owed it all to the transfer student, really. Oh boy. Now here's the real... Uh-oh. Okay, we have a new delusion trigger here. Okay, so... Try to be nice. Speak of the devil, there she was, passing right next to me. With a face that looked like she was about to cry, she bowed her head to me. Despite how uncomfortable I felt, I managed to nod back. I watched as she attempted to leave through the school gate, tripping over herself along the way. Once again, I thought about how small she was. She fit the lolly archetype to a T, and on top of that, she was a clumsy girl too. Okay, no delusions. I didn't know her very well, but her perfect blend of personalities made me want to shout from the rooftops. She was loaded with moe traits, and yet she didn't seem very popular with the other girls. What people valued in others really did differ between 2D and 3D. Huh. Yeah, and we're not delusion triggering after you make that comment. Rimi hurried over to me in a half sprint.
わざわざ待っててくれたんだ。ありがとう。
Yeah.
そんなに私と一緒に帰りたかった？
Well, you did promise. She peered into my face with a broad grin. I quickly turned away. Thanks to the setting sun, she shouldn't have noticed my face turning red. Rather than wanting to head home together, it was more like I was too scared to do it alone. I even felt paranoid just waiting alone at the gate. What if Yua was hiding in the shadows? Rimi should have known that, and yet she was deliberately probing me in a teasing manner.
ああ、嘘でもいいからそうだって言ってほしかったな。ねえ、私さ。
Hmm? Rimi had an unexpectedly distant look in her eyes. They shone faintly with the afterglow of the sunset.
タクの力になれて結構嬉しいよ。
Aww.
ありがとう。
Yeah, you're doing better. You're doing better, Takumi. I thanked her out of reflex. I truly was thankful, though. Rimi had become completely irreplaceable to me. Until I found a D source, she was all I had to rely on.
どういたしまして。
With a joyous smile, Rimi guided me away.
さあ、帰ろう。
Yeah. This is good. This is actually kind of good. But I guess mostly for Takumi, this is actually really good. Sume Academy was in the high-end residential area of Shoto. Every house was huge, and the whole area just oozed with an air of success and affluency. Despite this being Shibuya, and still daytime at that, there were hardly any people around. It gave the area this forlorn, lonesome air.
タクって意外とモテるよね。
Huh? Popular? Oh, you got him choking. I nearly died just then. What the hell was she talking about?
あれ？自覚ない？
With a chuckle, Rimi shot her index finger toward the tip of my nose. Don't point at people, it's rude! God damn it.
だってこの前はメガネかけた3年生の綺麗な人と一緒だったし。
Oh.
あれは
Oh, right, you,
うん、昨日聞いた。タクに意地悪する人だよね。
Picking on me. Okay, that's a fair way of looking at that, yeah. If you knew that, then why are you...
で、今日はあのフェスと話してた。あと折原さん。転校してきた朝に真っ先にタクに声をかけてたよね。
Oh, was that her full name, Kozue Orohara? I think it's because she doesn't really show up all that much. I haven't really had the time to, like, actually memorize her name yet.
さらに今こうして私と一緒に帰ってる。ほら、モテモテだ。
Oh, I see what she was getting at. Actually, I had been thinking about that recently. Has my life as a normie begun? Are my popular times finally here? Stuff like that. Something that would have been absolutely unthinkable for me a month ago. Back then, I'd never had the chance to even talk to 3D girls, excluding Nanami. I always boasted about not being into 3D girls, but that was just to make myself look cool and indifferent. So Rimi was definitely onto something. Why had my encounters with girls increased with such frequency lately? It all kicked off after that chat with Shogun. A scary thought suddenly crossed my mind. What if every single event in this past month had all been a delusion? What if I'd just been having a really, really long dream? Considering how insane everything was, I didn't think I'd be all that surprised if everything went right back to normal tomorrow. Or maybe the person controlling me had swapped out with someone else. Maybe the previous one was happy just watching me go through the motions, but the new one preferred to interact with other characters, or something like that. Either way, the past month didn't feel entirely real to me. Way too many things had been happening.
っていうか、私今日初めて知ったんだけど、フェスって同じ学校だったんだね。
Surprise!
しかも同学年の隣のクラス。
Rimi's voice is overflowing with excitement. I guess Rimi was quite the trend chaser.
昨日タクから CD 借りたばっかりだからすごくびっくりしちゃった。それにすごく可愛い子だし。
Rimi circled around in front of me. While still facing me, she began to walk backward. Her face got all quiet, and then she asked me a question timidly.
何話してたの？
Huh?
今朝フェス岸本さんと聞かせてほしいな。私には聞く権利なんてないかもって思うけど、でも岸本さんと話してた時のタク、すごく思い詰めた様子だったから、なんだか心配で。
Okay, so that immediately just changed it up a little bit. I was a little bit worried with the way that she was asking, but then she phrases it with this, where like, I noticed that you looked really upset. Are you okay? An actual sense of worry. She'd seen completely through me. I guess it wouldn't be a bad idea to tell her everything. It wasn't like I had other people to talk to about it. Plus, agonizing over it on my own had gotten pretty exhausting. I'd appreciate another perspective. Not from someone who's spoken nothing but vague, ambiguous bullshit like Ayase and Senna, but from someone that would give actual, concrete answers to my concerns. But when we talked yesterday, she She hadn't believed me at all.
話してたのは剣のこと。
剣って昨日タクが言ってたやつ？
I nodded.
綾瀬は持ってるんだ。
何を？
本物を。
A real sword. I wasn't completely sure, but I thought I heard Remy taking in a large breath. She staggered with her eyes open wide, and then after taking a few steps back...
嘘だ。
You know, the funny thing is, the word that she said, yusoda, there's a very specific scene from one of the very first visual novels that I ever covered on the channel where I finally got to hear the actual voice line of that particular scene. For people who've been at my channel since the very beginning, you know exactly what visual novel series I'm talking about, and you know exactly what scene I am talking about. So that yusoda, that word, is kind of engraved in my head. She shouted with a clearly skeptical voice.
だってあれおもちゃでしょ？
だから僕のはおもちゃだけど、彼女のは本物で、ライブ行けば見られ。
I quickly realized what I was saying and cut myself off. Would she even be able to see it? I mean, Ayase had mentioned that only people with powers could see D swords.
ライブに行けばその本物の剣を見られるの？
Uh-oh.
じゃあ今度行ってみようかな。ファンタズムのライブそのものも見たいし。
Uh-oh.
あ、タク一緒に行く？
Hey. We can go together. That's not a bad idea.
見られないかも。限られた人にしか見えないらしいんだ。
あ、そうなんだ。裸の王様みたいなものかな。
That's an okay, that's an out of field reference. The Emperor's New Clothes, really?
じゃあ、私バカだから見えないかも。なんてね。
Actually, that was a good point. Come to think of it, I didn't know anything about what exactly a real D-sword was, nor how it worked. I'd just been accepting everything Ayase said without question.
そんな剣、本当にあるのかな。やっぱり私信じられないよ。タクが見たっていう岸本さんの剣も本物っぽく見えるおもちゃじゃないの？
でも光ったし。
おもちゃでも光るやつはいくらでもあるよ。
Well, she wasn't wrong. If you wanted something to glow, you could easily slap some lights onto it. But when I thought of the overwhelming sense of presence Senna and Ayase swords had, their existence became harder to deny. They had an aura about them that no mere toy should have been capable of. And most of all, Ayase had taken that sword out of thin air. I'd seen it with my own eyes. It wasn't anything simple like hypnosis or super speed. On top of that, I felt as if I'd only gotten to experience the tip of the iceberg.
僕には妄想を現実に投影する力があるかも。
Okay, that's certainly one thing to immediately just tell her. I had no definitive proof, but I tried throwing my thoughts at Remy regardless.
だから将軍に、狙われてる気がする。
That was the only possible reason he'd be targeting me. There was nobody more harmless than I was. The otakus are fundamentally harmless beings. We did shut ourselves away in our own little worlds, after all. If we had time to bother denizens of the third dimension, we'd rather spend that in our heads. Well, I mean, flirting with adorable moe characters.
昨日調べてた特許のこと？タクはあんな装置持ってるの？
I shook my head.
そうじゃなくて、装置とかなくても力使えるかも。
タクからかってるんでしょ？あ、わかった。何かの漫画かアニメが元ネタ？
Oh, it's from a visual novel. Just as I feared, she didn't believe me. But I knew I'd experienced what I was talking about before, with that accident back in elementary school. I tried desperately to explain that to Rimi, that I might have been a murderer. I knew Rimi might abandon me if I confessed that to her, but I couldn't hide it anymore. I wanted to tell someone. If I did, I could clear the uncertainty in my mind, even if just a little bit. Rimi listened to my shaky explanation with a troubled look on her face, remaining silent the entire time. And after I finished talking...
考えすぎだよ。
She nonchalantly laughed the whole thing off.
そう考えてることだってタクの妄想なんだよ。わかってる？
Delusional, yes. Was I really overthinking it? That was a nice thought. But even with that theory, the uncertainty in the depths of my mind hadn't cleared at all. Oh. Hello. Wait, where are we now? The smell of dust wafted through an office. An office situated on the second floor of a somewhat old building. Sunlight streamed into the window, covering the back wall, turning the fluttering dust into that of a thin, powdery snow. The words plastered onto the window, Frisia Credit Bureau, cast a shadow onto a nearby desk. 20 desks were lined up across the floor, with not even a hint of a gap between them. Each one was drowning in an endless sea of documents, papers, and files. Piles stacked so high they looked to be on the verge of collapsing. From an outsider's perspective, it looked far more like a publishing company than a credit bureau. Most of the desks lacked denizens. There were only around 5 to 6 people at best. As for why that was, the obvious answer would be that it was the obvious conclusion would be that it was a Saturday, but this is by no means the answer. This was made evident by the whiteboard stuck to the wall near the entrance. Its schedule was densely packed with tasks and projects. Nearing the end of his lunch break, Bon Yasuji opened the door to the private investigation company. Oh, okay, it's Bon's office. He entered without so much as a knock, yet none of the workers seemed to bat an eye. Continuing to act as if he belonged there, Bon gave a quick, "How's it going?" and headed toward the desk at the back of the room. In it sat a robust-looking woman hunched over her laptop.
Oh, Momo-chan, genki?
Working hard or hardly working? Oh, so you're Momo. Hello. In response, the woman continued staring at her monitor with a weary expression. Her name was Momose Katsuko, and she was the president of Frisia.
バンちゃん、また来たの？
また来ましたよっと。ニュージェネについての新ネタない？
たく、私は忙しいのよ。抱えてる案件がごまってあるの。
Why do I feel like I've heard Momo's voice?
うちみたいな零細企業は土日返上で仕事しなくちゃいけないの。わかる？
I swear I've heard that voice. Momose finally raised her head. She placed a hand on her forehead and upon seeing Bon's grinning face, lightly shook her head.
ここは警察の秘密組織でも子会社でもないって何度も言ってるでしょうに。ただで情報もらえるなんて虫のいいこと考えてるんだろうけど、ここに来てる暇があるなら自分の足で何とかなさいな公務員さん。または依頼料を払うこと。予約表はみおちゃんにもらってちょうだい。
相変わらず冷てえ社長だな、おい。
I don't know why I like that little read. In spite of Momose's sharp remarks, Bon didn't show a hint of concern. He simply fanned himself with his distinctive handheld fan, remaining aloof as could be. I like Bon.
この会社立ち上げるときにはあんなに協力してやったのによ。
あら、ワンちゃんも恩着せがましい人だわね。何年同じことを言い続ければ気が済むわけ？
まあ言っててくれ。じゃあ依頼料はこいつでどうかな。
Bon showily pulled out a plastic bag with the name of a nearby Japanese-style confectionery store on it.
なんだ、あるなら最初から出してよ。いつも悪いわね。みおちゃん、お茶2つ持ってきて。
Her attitude having undergone a swift, stark change. Fuck it, it's still a shift. Momose closely examined the contents of the bag Bon had handed to her.
あら、栗羊羹、今が旬なのよね。わかってるじゃない。
Chestnut Yokon.
あ、ばんちゃん、そんなところに突っ立ってないで座って。
Okay, you can already tell, like, they got, like, their professional modes, but then as soon as Bon puts on the charm, like, listen, I know what you like. Ah, shit, you kinda do. Alright, take a seat, let's go.
どうも。
It really gives a good look, like, these two, like, probably have, like, this rich history and all of that. It's a simple, I don't know. Like, it didn't really even go into, like, crazy detail. Like, it started off with, like, hey, I helped get this place off the ground. Oh, you're giving me a headache. I got some sweets. Ah, shit, you know me. All right, take a seat. Let's get started. Like, that sort of interaction felt kind of... You know what? It almost reminded me of, I'm not entirely sure if there was this janitor in this college that I used to go to. Went there for like 2 years, and won't go into more details about that. But she was a very nice janitor. Talked to her like pretty much all the time in between classes and all of that. Nice lady, nice lady. She'd always tell me like stories about her kids and all of that. But there'd be times where, I don't know, this relationship just kind of reminds me of that. Like, good friends. That's what it kind of reminded me of. The clerical lady Momose had called for before brought over 2 steaming cups of tea.
で、なんか新ネタあるかい？
ちょっと待ちなさいって。
Momose carefully unwrapped the chestnut yokon, folded up the wrapper, and set it beside her PC. She then hurriedly devoured the first of the sweet treats. Japanese-style treats were her greatest weakness. They were a necessary offering for Bon to bring every time he came for information.
おいしいわ、これ。
This is so scrumptious.
人に言えた義理じゃないけどよ。ちったダイエットしたらどうだい？
Okay, that's mean. She looks good.
でないといつまで経っても結婚できないぜ。
Oh, Jesus Christ, dude! God damn it, Bon!
本当に人に言えた義理じゃないわね。私はもうとっくに今期は逃したわよ。
With a shrug of her shoulders, Momose took a sip from her tea, then turned to face Bon.
また新しいニュージェネ事件起きたわね。こんなところでサボってていいの？
I mean, he's kind of here asking for info about it.
そっちの調査は俺以外の全員が真剣に取り組んでるさ。俺は別のアプローチから真実に迫ってやるってね。
I guess that's one way of looking at it.
かっこつけちゃって似合わないわよ。
Knowing himself to be quite sensitive to hot drinks, Bon showed no hint of reaching for his cup. He simply continued to fan his face in spite of the already chilly air. It was something of a habit of his.
警察は G レートの線追ってるの？
Oh, hey! Nice new art. I like this.
そうそう、G レートね。ありゃすごいな。ももちゃんの話の通りだったぜ。
私が嘘の情報を渡すわけないでしょうに。これでおまんま食べてるんだから。それで？
まあ、勝手に調べてるよ。
Naturally.
勝手にって。ちょっとばんちゃん
Momose's voice carried well. Her personality was intrinsically energetic, lending her voice quite a bit of volume. The workers of Frisia were used to this. Not even batting an eye as her angry voice reverberated throughout the office. The boss's yelling was an everyday occurrence after all. Oh. Bon and Momose were old friends, so he was all too familiar with being on the receiving end of it. Thus, much to her chagrin, Momose's wrath was met only with him lazily picking at his ear. Before she said anything else, Momose quickly lowered her voice, for this was a topic she did not want met with prying ears. But her face was red with anger, as if she had not been cheerfully stuffing herself with sweets just moments before. She pointed her finger at Bon with tremendous intensity.
個人で追うのは危険だって言ったじゃない。政治に宗教に企業、どれだけ根深く関与してると思ってるの？
Oh, okay.
この間テレビで G レートの講義をやった太田教授がどうなったかあんたもよく知ってるでしょ。
What happened to Professor Ota after he gave that GE rate lecture? What?
ああ、貼り付けて殺された被害者だろ。何度も聞いたよ。
Oh.
何度でも言ってやるわ。言ってやりますとも。
He was the crucifixion murder victim. Oh. Wait a minute. He talked about the GE rate. And he was killed?
あんたはいつも私の忠告を無視するんだから。それでいつも尻拭いさせられるのは私なんてたまったもんじゃないわ。
まあまあ、そうか。って。茶でも飲んで落ち着いてな。
Ignoring both Bon and her tea, Momose tossed a second chestnut yokon into her mouth in a huff.
大丈夫だって。一応諏訪と一緒に動いてるんで。今はまだ G レートやら何やらってのは突飛すぎて上を説得できねえなよ。
Right. They'd rather stick to protocol rather than think outside the box. That or they're potentially bought out as well. If this goes about as deep as if this whole GE thing is, well, I mean, this new gen everything too, is as deeply rooted as Momose is pointing out, there's a high chance that as soon as somebody gets anywhere close to the truth, well, their body will be found. Or, in a worst case scenario, they'll never be found.
スワちゃんは確かに有能だし、しっかりしているけど、無理させたら承知しないわよ。
I think he's already kind of overworking him.
ももちゃんはいつから諏訪の保護者になったんだ？
バンちゃんの無謀な行動に未来ある若者が巻き込まれるのはかわいそうでしょうに。
あ、そうか。
Fair enough. With a shrug of resignation, Bon took a testing sip of his tea, only to immediately grimace. It was still too hot.
しかし、バイオリズムが人を殺す凶器になるなんてこと、本当にありえるのかね？
Biorhythms.
前に説明したでしょうに。
実はいまいち理解しきれてねえんだわ。それってももちゃんお得意の電磁波と関係してるのか？
Specialty EM waves? Electromagnetic waves? Momose let out a sigh. Then, in contrast to Bon, composedly sipped at her tea.
満月の夜の事件簿はよく知ってるでしょ？
nights with a full moon, so that's like once a month.
まあな。
A vast influx of incidents and accidents would always occur on the night of a full moon. This was no urban legend either. One need only glance at the Tokyo Metropolitan Police's statistical records.
その満月以上の力でバイオリズムカーブが上昇したらどうなると思う？
興奮するってことだろう。
それだけ？
There's gotta be more.
渋谷は特殊な街なのよ。言ったでしょ？
Mm-hmm.
GE レートが高ければバイオリズムカーブは上昇する。
Okay.
しかもその上昇値は満月の夜に影響する数値のおよそ6800倍。
Holy Wait, damn! 6,800 times more intense?
なんとも想像しにくい数字だな。
No!
比べ物にならないくらいすごいって考えとけばいいわ。
しかし、なんで今なんだい？
殺された太田教授が言っていたのは GE レートが半年前から急に増加しているせいってことね。
So we have a time lapse, or a time frame here. Over the past half year, the GE rate has been rapidly increasing. No doubt that has something to do with Nozomi and whatever they got going on.
地層の構造に大きな変化が起きない限りそんなことはありえないそうだけど。
変化ね。
そう、駅前のスクランブル交差点で火山が噴火するほどのエネルギーが必要なの。
That's a lot of energy.
火山？そんなに大きな力なのか？
That's crazy strong.
それくらい今の GE レートはありえない状況なのよ。
それを世間に訴えようとした教授はニュージャネで殺された。
In other words, they didn't want that information to be revealed to the public.
事件の前日に教授が出演する予定だったテレビ番組が急遽放送中止になった話知ってる？
The TV show the professor was supposed to appear on was suddenly canceled? A day prior to the incident. Huh. They really don't want this information to go public.
確か。
知り合いに MHK に勤めている人がいて聞かされたの。
MHK.
国営放送の番組に圧力かけられる立場なんてそうそうないぜ。
私も詳細についてはわからないわ。知ってたらとっくに告発してるだろうし。
Well, the problem is, even if you did acquire this information, Mama say, there was a high chance that if you did try to go after them, you'd be the next target. Bond leaned forward, intrigued.
俺でも大体予想はつくさ。この際、はっきり言っちゃってよ。
本気で聞きたい？社会の暗部に踏み込むことになるわよ。いいの？
You want to step into the dark side? Damn right!
パンちゃん、クビになるかもしれない。
俺はニュージェネ事件の犯人さえ捕まえられりゃそれでいいんだけどね。
This guy's a man on a mission. Gotta respect that.
ま、どうするかは答えを聞いてから考えるわ。
Sipping her tea, Momose tapped away at her laptop keyboard with her free hand. Displayed on the screen was a single document. It contained a list of information Momose had personally looked into.
名和と
The Meiwa Party. Well, it's been a while since we've gotten ourselves a tip here. Meiwa Party. Fictional. One of the two major political parties in Japan. I appreciate that they had to specify. This is clearly fictional. Not any relation to real world people. 4 years ago, the Meiwa Party was an opposition party, but that changed following a major breakthrough in the general election that year. Its catchphrase is, "A brighter peace for the people," as the two kanji used in its name, Mei and Wa, mean bright and peace respectively. Okay. Thank you.
もちゃん、勘弁してくれ。俺はてっきり野党の名前が出てくると思ってたんだがな。よりによって。
Bond groaned in utter exasperation. Yet despite his smile, his eyes showed not even a hint of one. All they housed now was the cold, discerning gaze of a detective.
下手したらこの国が揺らぐぜ。
Damn!